The night your soulmate prayed for you was not a loud night, it was not dramatic, and no one else in the world noticed it, but heaven did, because while you were living your life, distracted by questions, by delays, by confusion, by the feeling that something or someone was missing, there was another soul somewhere in the world who felt your absence without even knowing your name, and that night they sat alone, maybe on a bed, maybe in a quiet room, maybe staring at the ceiling or holding their phone without scrolling, and they felt a heaviness they couldn't explain, a pull in their spirit that made them whisper a prayer that sounded something like this: God, I don't know who they are yet, I don't know where they are, but please protect the one you're preparing for me, please heal them where they are hurting, please guide them when they feel lost, and please don't let life harden their heart before they find me. And when that prayer left their lips, it didn't echo into emptiness, it traveled. Because prayers that are born from love, even future love, move differently, and at that exact moment something shifted in the unseen, because God is a God who works ahead of time, a God who answers prayers before introductions, a God who knits stories together long before the characters meet, and you didn't feel it consciously, but that night you were spared from something, redirected from someone, delayed for a reason, protected in a way you may never fully understand, because you're soulmates. Prayer became a shield around you, not because they are powerful on their own, but because God honors prayers that align with His timing, and you have to understand this: your soulmate didn't pray for you because they were lonely, they prayed because God placed your name in their spirit without revealing your face, they prayed because love that is meant to last is first built in the spiritual realm before it ever touches the physical one. And while you may have been questioning why relationships kept falling apart, why connections felt close but never complete, why people came with excitement and left with silence, heaven was quietly saying, not yet, because the night your soulmate prayed for you was the night God said, they're getting closer, but they're not ready yet, and readiness isn't about perfection, it's about alignment. It's about healing wounds you didn't cause but were left to carry. It's about unlearning patterns that would sabotage the very love you're asking for, and that night, while you slept or cried or distracted yourself, your soulmate asked God to soften your heart, not knowing how many times it had been bruised, asked God to guard your mind, not knowing the battles you fight in silence, asked God to give you peace, not knowing how often you replay old conversations and wonder why you weren't enough. And here's what most people don't realize: when someone prays for you sincerely, your spirit recognizes it before your mind does, which is why after that night you started changing without forcing it. You became less attached to the wrong people, less reactive to things that once drained you, more aware of what you deserve, more patient with yourself, more selective with your energy, because prayer rearranges things quietly, it doesn't announce itself, it works beneath the surface, and God began removing distractions not as punishment but as preparation. Because the love you're being prepared for requires clarity, emotional maturity, and peace. And your soulmate's prayer activated a season where God started saying no to things you were still saying yes to, and it hurt, and it confused you, and at times it made you feel alone, but isolation is often the classroom where God teaches you how to love without fear, and that night your soulmate prayed, God also whispered back to them, trust me, I'm working on them too. And from that moment forward, both of you began walking parallel paths without knowing it, learning similar lessons, facing similar tests, being stretched in similar ways, because when two souls are meant to meet, God trains them in the same spiritual language, so when you finally speak, you understand each other without needing many words, and this is why rushed love never lasts. Because it skips the praying stage, it skips the healing stage, it skips the becoming stage, and what you're being given is not a temporary connection. It's a covenant-level love, the kind that survives seasons, misunderstandings, distance, and growth, and your soulmate prayed for your strength because one day they will lean on it, prayed for your wisdom because one day you will guide them, prayed for your faith because one day it will anchor both of you, and maybe right now you're watching this thinking, why does this feel so specific? Why does this feel like someone sees me? Why does this feel comforting and heavy at the same time? And the reason is simple: prayers leave residue. They leave warmth, they leave a sense of being held even when no one is physically there, and if you've been feeling sudden waves of peace mixed with longing, hope mixed with patience, it's because love is approaching you in spirit before it arrives in form, and God does this on purpose so you don't idolize the person when they come, but recognize the alignment, and listen carefully. Your soulmate didn't pray for perfection, they prayed for truth. They didn't ask God to make you flawless. They asked God to make you whole. They didn't ask for an easy relationship, they asked for a real one, and that's why the waiting feels intense, because real things take time, and while the world rushes love through apps, convenience, and instant gratification, God still writes slow, intentional love stories, the kind that begin with prayer instead of attraction. And you need to know this too: your soulmate has their own scars, their own past, their own nights of crying out to God, asking when, asking why, asking if you even exist, and that shared vulnerability is what will make your connection safe, not dramatic, not toxic, not addictive, but peaceful, deep, and grounding. And when you finally meet, you may not recognize them by butterflies or chaos, you'll recognize them by calm, by familiarity, by the strange feeling that you've known them longer than you have, because spiritually, you have. Prayers create introductions before conversations ever happen. And the night your soulmate prayed for you wasn't the end of anything, it was the beginning of a quiet agreement between heaven and earth that what is meant for you will not miss you, will not pass you by, will not be taken by someone else, because God does not tease hearts, He prepares them, and until the moment comes, you are being covered, protected, guided, and gently shaped into someone who can both give and receive the love you've been asking for. So if you're in a season of waiting, don't rush it. If you're in a season of healing, don't resist it. If you're in a season of silence, don't fear it, because somewhere, maybe even tonight, the same person who once prayed for you is thanking God in advance for you, and when the timing is right, you won't need signs, pressure, or convincing. You'll simply know that the prayer has finally taken form, and until then, rest in this truth: you are already loved more deeply than you realize, even before the meeting, even before the name, even before the moment, because the night your soulmate prayed for you, heaven said yes, just not yet. After the night your soulmate prayed for you, something else began to happen that most people never notice. God started teaching both of you how to wait without losing hope, and waiting is one of the hardest spiritual disciplines because it feels like nothing is happening when in reality everything is aligning, and this is where many people give up. They settle, they distract themselves, they chase attention instead of connection, but you didn't, even when you were tempted to. Something inside you kept saying, hold on, don't rush this, don't give your heart to something that can't carry it. And that voice wasn't random, it was the echo of prayer working its way through your life, because when someone prays for you sincerely, God doesn't just bless you externally, He reshapes your discernment internally. He makes you uncomfortable with things that used to feel familiar. He makes shallow connections feel exhausting. He makes temporary affection feel empty. And you may have wondered why conversations stopped exciting you, why flirting felt pointless, why you crave depth more than attention, and the reason is because you are being prepared for a love that doesn't survive on adrenaline but on understanding, and your soulmate, without realizing it, was being prepared in the same way, learning restraint, learning patience, learning how to love without possession, learning how to choose commitment over convenience, and this is important because the love you're moving toward will not be built on fear of losing each other, it will be built on confidence that God brought you together on purpose, and there is a huge difference between love that clings and love that stands, and the night your soulmate prayed for you, God also began closing doors that would have delayed your destiny, even if they looked good, even if they felt right at the time, even if you begged Him to keep them open. And now when you look back, you realize some endings saved you more than they hurt you, some rejections redirected you more than they ejected you, and some silence protected you more than explanations ever could, because the wrong connection at the wrong time can damage what God is trying to build carefully, and you weren't being denied love, you were being preserved for it, and there were moments you felt forgotten, moments you questioned your worth, moments you wondered if you were asking for too much. But here's the truth that changes everything. The kind of love you're waiting for requires two people who have learned how to stand alone without becoming bitter, because dependency creates pressure, but wholeness creates partnership, and that's why God allowed seasons where you had to rely on Him instead of a person, where you had to learn how to self-soothe, self-reflect, self-correct, because the love that's coming won't complete you, it will complement you. And when two people meet from a place of fullness instead of lack, their bond is not fragile, it's resilient, and your soulmate prayed for that resilience without knowing the word for it, they just knew they didn't want to hurt you or be hurt by you unnecessarily, they wanted something gentle, something safe, something lasting, and God heard that, and listened closely. Your soulmate is not perfect, and neither are you, but you are being prepared to choose each other daily, not impulsively, and that's why the timing feels slow. Because God is more interested in sustainability than speed, more interested in longevity than intensity, and while the world glorifies fast love, dramatic love, chaotic love, God specializes in quiet love that outlives storms, and when you finally cross paths, it may not look like a movie scene, but it will feel like home, like relief, like finally exhaling after holding your breath for years, and you'll realize the waiting didn't weaken you, it refined you. It taught you boundaries, it taught you communication, it taught you how to listen instead of react, how to stay instead of run, how to love without losing yourself. And that's when you'll understand why it had to take this long, because if you had met earlier, you might have loved each other, but you wouldn't have known how to keep each other, and God doesn't just bring people together, He teaches them how to remain together, and even now, as you're listening to this, there is a quiet reassurance settling in your spirit. Not excitement, not anxiety, but peace, the kind that doesn't need proof yet, the kind that trusts timing without seeing the calendar, and that peace is your confirmation that the prayer is still working, the connection is still forming, and nothing meant for you is delayed, it's being delivered at the exact moment you can handle it, appreciate it, and protect it, and until that day comes, keep becoming, keep healing, keep trusting. Because the same God who heard the prayer that night is still guiding both of you toward the moment it finally answers itself in real life. As time moved forward after those prayers were spoken, something subtle but powerful continued unfolding, because God does not rush what He intends to protect, and the distance between you and your soulmate was never empty space, it was filled with preparation, with quiet lessons, with moments that felt ordinary but were actually shaping the way you would one day love each other, and there were days you felt stronger than before. Not because life got easier, but because you stopped fighting the process. You stopped asking why so often and started trusting even when answers didn't come, and that shift mattered more than you realized, because love that lasts is built on trust long before it's built on touch, and your soulmate was learning that too in their own world, learning how to sit with their thoughts, how to be honest with their emotions, how to stop running from solitude and instead use it as a mirror. And this is where God often does his deepest work, in the quiet, in the waiting. In the moments where no one is clapping, and both of you are being taught the same truth from different angles, that real love does not arrive to save you from life, it arrives to walk with you through it, and because of that, God started removing illusions from both of you, the fantasy that love should always feel exciting, the belief that passion alone is enough, the expectation that the right person will fix everything that's broken. And once those illusions fell, clarity took their place. And clarity is uncomfortable at first because it forces you to confront yourself, but it's necessary if you want something real, and this is why you began noticing patterns in your past relationships, understanding your triggers instead of blaming others, choosing peace over proving a point, and that growth was not random, it was alignment, because when two souls are being prepared for each other, God synchronizes their healing. Not perfectly, but purposefully, and the closer you get to the meeting, the less chaos surrounds you, not because life becomes perfect, but because your spirit becomes steady, and you may have noticed that you stopped chasing signs and started feeling anchored, stopped begging for love and started expecting respect, stopped romanticizing potential and started valuing consistency, and these changes are signals that the season is shifting. Because God never brings someone new into your life until you've made room for them emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, and your soulmate is not entering to compete with your past, they're entering into the space your past taught you to protect, and when the meeting finally happens, it won't feel like two broken people colliding, it will feel like two aware people recognizing each other, and recognition is different from attraction. Attraction excites the senses, recognition calms the soul, and that calm is how you'll know this is different. Because you won't feel the need to perform, to impress, to rush, to explain yourself excessively, you'll feel seen without being examined, understood without being interrogated, safe without being controlled, and your soulmate will feel it too, even if they don't have words for it yet. Because the same prayer that covered you has been shaping their expectations, teaching them not to look for perfection, but for alignment, not for fireworks, but for warmth, and when you talk, the conversations will flow without force, not because you agree on everything, but because you respect each other's humanity, and respect is the foundation love stands on when emotions fluctuate. And there will be moments where you both realize how much had to happen before this moment could exist, how many wrong turns protected you, how many delays saved you, how many nights you cried separately for the same future without knowing it, and gratitude will replace resentment. Because nothing hurts more than meeting the right person at the wrong time, and nothing heals more than meeting them when both of you are finally ready. And readiness doesn't mean fear is gone, it means fear no longer controls your choices, and the prayer that started all of this continues working even after the meeting, because love that begins with God does not end when challenges appear, it deepens, it adapts, it grows roots, and there will be days you remember the waiting and smile, not because it was easy, but because it was worth it. And you'll understand that love didn't arrive late. It arrived complete, and until that moment becomes real, let this truth steady your heart: you are not forgotten, you are not behind, you are not missing out, you are exactly where you need to be for what's coming next, and the same God who heard that prayer is still writing the story, line by line, moment by moment, with more care than you could imagine, and when the timing is right, you won't have to chase love, you'll simply step into it. Because it has been walking toward you all along, after the meeting happens and the initial recognition settles into something quieter and more grounded, the real beauty of this connection begins to reveal itself, because what God brings together through prayer is not sustained by emotion alone, it is sustained by intention, and this is where your love story becomes different from the ones that came before it, because instead of constantly wondering where you stand, you both move with a shared sense of security, not the kind that says nothing will ever go wrong, but the kind that says even when things are difficult, we won't disappear on each other, and that promise is not spoken loudly, it is lived in small consistent ways, in patience during misunderstandings, in choosing conversation over silence, in choosing grace over ego, and you will notice how conflict no longer feels like a threat but like an opportunity to understand each other more deeply. Because fear has been replaced with trust, and trust grows when two people know they were brought together on purpose, and the prayer that started this connection continues to cover it, guiding your words when emotions rise, softening your hearts when pride tries to harden them, reminding you why you chose each other in moments when life feels heavy, and there will be seasons that test you, not because the love is weak, but because life is real, and God never promised a love without storms, He promised a love that would survive them. And what keeps you steady is not constant happiness but shared faith. The understanding that you are not fighting against each other but standing together against whatever comes, and you'll see how your individual growth continues even within the relationship, because the right love does not shrink you, it supports your becoming, it celebrates your purpose instead of competing with it, and your soulmate will not fear your strength or dim your light, they will feel inspired by it, just as you will feel encouraged by theirs, and that mutual encouragement is rare. Because it requires two people who are secure enough to love without control, and that security was built long before you met, during the waiting, during the healing, during the nights when prayers were the only thing holding hope together, and you will look back at those nights with a new understanding, realizing they were not empty, they were sacred, they were the foundation of everything you now share. And love will feel less like chasing and more like choosing, less like proving and more like resting, and even in ordinary moments, sitting quietly, doing nothing special, you'll feel a deep contentment that confirms this is what you were being prepared for, and gratitude will become a daily language between you, gratitude for timing, for growth, for protection, for unanswered prayers that were actually answered in a better way, and this love will not need constant validation from the outside world. Because its roots go deeper than public approval, they go back to a moment when two separate prayers crossed paths in God's hands, and that is why this connection will endure when others fade, because it is anchored in something unshakable, and as you continue forward together, you'll understand that the night your soulmate prayed for you was not just about bringing two people together, it was about creating a love that reflects patience, faith, and divine care, a love that doesn't rush, doesn't panic, doesn't fear time, because it trusts the one who wrote it, and if you're listening to this before that love fully arrives, let this be your reassurance. What is meant for you is unfolding exactly as it should, nothing is wasted, nothing is late, and every step you've taken has been leading you here, to a love that feels peaceful, purposeful, and real, a love that didn't begin with chance, but with prayer. As this story reaches its quiet completion, there is one truth that remains steady beneath everything you've heard: nothing about your journey has been accidental. Not the waiting, not the loneliness, not the lessons that felt too heavy at the time, because love that is prayed into existence carries a weight that casual connections never will, and the night your soulmate prayed for you was not a moment God forgot, it was a promise He began unfolding slowly, carefully, faithfully, and even now, whether you have met this person or are still walking toward them, that prayer continues to work in ways you may never fully see, protecting your bond before it forms, strengthening it after it begins, guiding both of you when words fall short, and reminding you in moments of doubt that this love was never built on coincidence, and there will be days ahead that feel ordinary, days without signs or emotions running high, but even in those moments, the foundation holds, because real love does not rely on constant reassurance, it rests on quiet certainty. And that certainty was planted long before you knew each other's names, and if you are still in the waiting season, let this settle into your spirit. Waiting does not mean forgotten, silence does not mean absence, and delay does not mean denial, it means preparation, because God values your heart too much to hand it over before both of you are ready to protect it, and one day you will look back at this version of yourself, the one listening, hoping, trusting, and you will thank them for not giving up, for not settling, for not closing their heart out of fear, and you will understand that the love you stepped into needed every moment that came before it, and when you and your soulmate sit together in a moment that feels simple but sacred, you will feel a deep knowing that this was worth the wait, worth the prayers, worth the patience, and even worth the pain, because nothing meaningful is formed without pressure, and nothing lasting is formed without care, and as this message comes to a close, carry this truth with you. You are already being loved in ways you cannot yet see, you are already being chosen in prayers you did not hear, and you are already walking toward a connection that will meet you with peace instead of confusion, depth instead of drama, and commitment instead of fear, and when that love fully arrives, it won't rush you, it won't test you, it won't make you question your worth, it will feel like an answer that came right on time, because it did, and until that day, rest your heart, keep your faith, and trust the process, because the same God who heard the prayer that night is still holding both of you in his hands, guiding you gently toward each other, exactly when the time is right.